Hey friends, welcome to the Inner Spark podcast. I'm your host, Casey Tayton. If you're looking to hear stories of transformation and personal growth, this podcast is for you. My guest and I will be sharing those sparking moments that has changed them into living a more fulfilling, authentic life. I'm so excited for you to hear each unique story. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hey friend, welcome back to the Inner Spark podcast. I'm your host, Casey Tayton. Today, I have with me one of the most amazing, beautiful human beings I get to call a friend. She is a former corporate badass, then had her life change turned by a chronic illness. She is a content creator and a podcaster. Welcome, Cathy. I'm so excited to have you.
Hi, Casey. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am Cathy. And as Casey said, I used to work in a corporate environment. It was my life. And then I got sick 5 years ago. And that has really shaped everything about me since then, because being sick takes over everything about your life. So now I have put a lot of my passion and energy into content creation and podcasting, but I talk a lot about my chronic illness and I try to share other people's stories about chronic illness as well.
That is so beautiful. So I'm going to back up a second and I'm going to tell them that I met you in a podcasting class,
Yes.
and it was one of the most beautiful things to get to meet someone who doesn't necessarily have the same things I have, but understands the challenges. And then I got to be on her beautiful podcast, and it was one of the most exciting days of my life just to be able to tell my story and let it be heard, and that your whole podcast is dedicated to just letting people be them and who they are right now. That is so powerful and inspiring. I
Oh,
hope
thank you.
you're just magic. I could go on about how beautiful you are and just I actually reached out to our listeners the other day and was like, if you're not, if you just get bored and you want to teach a class, you could teach classes on graphics or this, because her content and her creations are just so beautiful.
Okay, everyone. Casey is being way too nice to me. It's not that good.
No,
Not that good, I promise.
I love them and it makes me smile to always see them. Can we take a step back and go back to what your life was before your life changed?
Sure. So I fell into a wonderful career in corporate technology. So my official title was product manager, but I did a lot of business analyst type skills, and I worked in software applications. So I spent a lot of time with different business clients and then would go and hang out with the development crew from concept to implementation. And I loved it. I loved it, loved it, loved it. And I never anticipated I would go into a role like that. It kind of found me. And that was what was so magical about it, is that I fell into the career, and I also worked for a company that took really good care of me. So it was very much a dream career. And that's why it is so tragic to have lost it. Although maybe I'm jumping ahead if you wanted to ask more questions about that. I don't know.
No, you're good. That like caught me in the throat when you said that because I could feel like the emotions. How long ago did this happen?
I started working for the company in 2006. So I was a bit of a baby. I worked for the company for 15 years and then I was on leave for 2 years. So I was with them for 17 years by the time that I left. And it was, a relationship, it was my family, and it was all I knew.
Yeah.
It was my world. That made it an immense loss.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, I loved my job, and when I was forced to quit, it was a lot. And the way you lit up when you're talking about living, like having your dream job, and not only that, they were so good to you, and how it was your family, and you just truly enjoyed what you do, to having your life stop.
That's really what it felt like. It felt like everything came to a screeching halt. And that was in November 2019. And so it was just coincidental that it was shortly before the world stopped in then March 2020. But I had come to my own isolation and stop and being housebound, before that.
Yeah. It's interesting because when the world stopped for everyone else, those of us who our worlds had already stopped because of something else, we were like, this is like the normal of staying at home. Except for we're not really staying at home because we want to stay at home. We're staying at home because we're being forced to stay at home, and we're spending hours in doctor's offices. So it's not like we're just staying here doing anything. But it was different when the world stopped. I don't know if it felt any different to you.
It was really interesting because I had started my diagnosis journey and I was
Mhm.
going to a lot of doctors in that period of time. And I remember seeing all of the signs that if you had traveled to, I think the city was Wuhan, please wear a mask or please let the reception know immediately. And because I was in so many offices and every single one of them had a sign. And I was like, interesting. And
Yeah.
um, I didn't get a diagnosis before everything shut down. But, doctors continued to work even when things shut down. We were corresponding, they were figuring out virtual appointments. So I did get a diagnosis in 2021, I think was the time frame. And I really benefited from the virtual appointments getting online and more supported because I wasn't well enough to like drive myself everywhere. A lot of my doctors were a good 30 to 45 minutes away. So um, there were the upsides, like silver lining.
Yeah.
Don't even want to say it, but I virtual appointments were one of the great things to happen in that time frame.
Yeah. I was wondering what your experience looked like because I had already had my diagnosis and I had traveled a lot. And so I know when a lot went to virtual, I was like, how is that affecting people who have these conditions that need treatments and need answers, and everything is shifting? Sounds like it kind of benefited you in a way. 30 minutes in a car feels like 10 hours when you feel horrible.
I totally remember driving myself and being like, why do my legs hurt? Why do my arms hurt? Like it was a new experience. And I think that pain that I was experiencing was fatigue, and I didn't know how to qualify it. But I was having fatigue and pain, and I was having trouble driving. I mean, I was safe. Everyone around me was safe. I don't want to make it
Right.
sound like it was a danger, but it was unexpected.
Yeah. How did it impact your life, like with family and friends? And do you mind if we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Um, my family did not live here at the time. My parents were thinking about relocating here from Chicago. That's where we're from. And they ultimately did come here in July 2020. It was kind of their retirement move. And my mom always says she had no idea how sick I was. She had a vision of me going back to work, which of course I did as well. I thought I'd get treatment and go back to work.
Yeah.
Um, which for those listening to the podcast, you may at this point be like, oh, she didn't go back to work, which, yeah, I didn't. But my mom was like, she'll go back to work. We'll see each other, maybe after work or definitely on the weekends. We love TJ Maxx, and my mom's like, she'll take me to all the TJ Maxx because my parents had visited me plenty in the prior decade that I'd been out here. And I had played hostess. Like I had taken them all over to my favorite restaurants. I was the chauffeur, and then everything changed. They came in July and they saw how sick I was, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we didn't realize." And so, unfortunately, since that time, it's been progressive. And my mom regularly says, I didn't know. And I'm like, well, here I am. And my sister and her family remain in the Midwest. So I was able to visit them on my own using a power wheelchair
Oh,
for
nice.
a while. My ability to walk around ended probably around 2021. I could walk a little bit, like within the home, but long distances was just out of the question. So I got mobility aids of different types, and a power wheelchair is just wonderful if I'm like in an airport or something like that. So I was able to go visit my sister. She's in Iowa, and I did that multiple times. But then I've progressed, and unfortunately, within 2024, I wasn't able to go visit. So she has upped her game and she has come to visit with her boys more often here in California. So we're making it work. We're making it
That
work.
is, yeah, that's so powerful and so magical that she gets to come to you now. I think something else really powerful that you said is your parents didn't realize how sick you were. I don't know how you would explain it to people, but when I first got sick, I had the same thing happen. My parents live 2 houses down from me, so that's a true blessing. But I had a friend that I would talk to, and until they came and stayed with me, she was like, I kind of thought you were sick, kind of said you couldn't do this, or you were just too drained, like you weren't sure if you were going to be able to go out to dinner with us or do all these plans. Like you would take everybody around, like your parents around, and then when they come and they see you and they're like, oh, like you are sick, you have changed. I don't know if people don't, and maybe it's actually that we don't realize it ourselves, or we don't want to accept it ourselves right then. I hear that a lot of other people saying until someone truly sees you and sees you for multiple hours and different days, they don't understand the transformation of how your life stopped.
I think it's like limits of communication. I have a good friend who I have told her repeatedly how sick I am. I also wasn't able to visit her in 2024, and I've asked her to come visit me, and she hasn't. And that's been disappointing for me. But the last time I visited her in 2023, she kind of schlepped me around with her, even though I had my wheelchair. And I was trying to communicate to her that this is too much. I can't do all these things. And then on the last day of the trip, I crashed, which is hard to explain. But basically, my body, mm, Okay, so let's picture a phone, and a phone, when it gets to 20%, it usually goes, the little battery indicator turns red. And I go red real easily, but I went to like 3% on that last day I was there. I was barely functioning. And I think she saw that. But even on that last day, she was like, okay, you're sick. You sleep and I'll come back later. And I'm like, no, this is regular. This is what I'm like all the time. And I think there are just limits of communication. Sometimes people don't see it, and there has to be a willingness to see it, and there has to be empathy to see it. It's um it's really hard. It's really hard.
Thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine what it felt like because I imagine you're sort of like me and you would go probably nonstop before. And so to go and sometimes you just want to push yourself to the limit and as you did until your body was like, no, I'm done. And you had no other choice. And I think the harder part is I'm not sure if people don't know what to say or they are just actually hitting them. And then you having to like reaffirm them like, no, this is my life.
Right. And that's absolutely right as far as like who I used to be. If we back up to that corporate Cathy person, I was working probably consistently 50 hours a week. And I also had this small business passion project hobby that I had created that supported animal rescue. It was my form of volunteering. I volunteered with animals. I was very hands-on. I fostered animals. That last year, I had a litter of animals in my home, a litter of cats in my home that I was helping raise. I was just busy, busy, busy. And I didn't know I was busy. It was just my norm. That's just what life was. And now I can see that I was going too fast. I was doing too much. And it definitely exacerbated a condition that was most likely already in my body, was definitely in my body, and it just blew up.
Yeah. That is really hard to see, but also I believe there's so much power in that of we have sometimes underlying conditions and when we're used to like what you said the norm, we just go and we don't know any different or think any different. And not only were you working, you were loving on all these animals.
Hmm.
Like,
I
how
did.
amazing is that?
Hmm.
It's just so powerful. And then just to have everything just stop and change. Would you mind sharing what you have?
Oh, sure. So I actually have multiple conditions. I have two big ones and then some lesser ones. I haven't figured out a good way to present it, so that's why I'm falling over myself here. So my big ones, or my biggest one, is called myalgic encephalomyelitis, and the common name for it is chronic fatigue syndrome, which a lot of us who have it do not like because there's many more symptoms to it than just fatigue. And I brought up a cheat sheet for myself because I knew I was going to mess it up. Um, Myalgic encephalomyelitis, commonly referred to ME/CFS, is a disease characterized by profound fatigue, cognitive dysfunction, sleep abnormalities, autonomic manifestations, pain, and other symptoms that are made worse by exertion of any sort, physical, cognitive, emotional, orthostatic stressors. And I could go on reading to you, but I won't. Um, so it is usually caused by a post-viral illness, but it can have other causes. And it is very much in a research phase. There are no FDA approved medicines for it right now. All of the medicines are off label use of other medicines that are branded and FDA approved for other uses. Um, I think I tripped over myself while I was saying that. Did it make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, no cure, just chronic illness there. I also have multiple sclerosis, which people are much more familiar with. And that also does not have a cure, but it does have a lot more research. It has FDA approved medicines. So it is ahead in terms of research. I'm not sure what word to use. It's just
Yeah.
ahead in the game. So I am lucky to have a disease where the doctor has a protocol in place for what to do with me. My other doctor's like, okay, let's try this. This didn't work. Okay, let's try that. Okay, let's move forward here. It's a lot more experimental. And then I also suffer from some more common things like migraine disorder. I have Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease, but I also have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which a lot of people have, which is um, symptomatic or a symptom of so many other conditions. You know, you develop it. So I can relate to many people when they're suffering from IBS. I understand it very well. So yeah, I got a lot going on, unfortunately.
It is a lot. The one thing about having a rare condition, I think it was just actually like National Rare Disease Day, like a couple days ago. There's so much unknown, and you are constantly feeling like an experiment of just trying new things. Like there's no, even with your other conditions, yes, there may be some answers, but there's no like just like easy cure. Like here, take this Tylenol or, just eat this food and you're just gonna be all better.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, yes, it would. I also think when you say fatigue, a lot of people don't truly understand that. Um, because they'll say my body's fatigued. Like I just had a busy day at work. I just had a busy day doing this. I went to the gym. My legs hurt. My body feels fatigued. And I'm like, okay, there's a difference.
There is a difference, yeah.
Yeah.
I describe it in a few ways. Um, Sometimes it's like picture a weighted blanket wrapped around all of you, but it's like a 10-pound weighted blanket. It's like really hard. But I also have fatigue pain. And this one's going to sound a little funny, but it's like my blood is too thick for my veins and arteries and whatever blood travels through. I obviously didn't do well in biology, but it's too thick so I can feel it moving through my limbs and it hurts so bad. And I know that's not technically what's happening. I know my doctor would be like, Kathy, that your blood is fine. Your biology is wrong. But it feels like I can feel everything happening and that the blood is just scraping the sides of those little tubes and cutting it up. And I guess blood can't make it bleed, but like it just, there's something so wrong happening. And it feels like that very often. And that is fatigue for me.
There's yeah, there's a huge difference in people saying I'm fatigued from doing all these things, or I had a cold or the flu or whatever they want to say. And I'm like, okay, you laid in bed for a few days.
Right? And I don't want to dismiss that because if someone isn't feeling
Right.
well, they're not feeling well, but it's just
100%.
not
Yeah.
comparable.
Yeah. I think I don't want to dismiss that at all because everybody has, bad days. I got migraines myself and dealt with those, and people didn't understand it. They're like, headache. No, there's a huge difference. And we all feel pain differently. And so I don't want to dismiss anybody's pain because I think also once you get sick, you can relate way more. But that's why I wanted you to go into detail because I think there's a little bit difference of how you feel pain versus, and we all feel it differently, but like on a daily basis, you're in discomfort.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I know one of the definitions of chronic pain is intermittent pain every day. And it doesn't have to be severe pain every day, but the fact that you have pain over and over and over again, unrelenting, it affects your life, it affects everything. And that's chronic pain. So like if you're having a migraine every day, if your back is aching, if you feel like your blood is too thick for your veins, like these these types of pain, it's it affects your quality of your life in such a dramatic way.
It does. It's interesting how we all have different conditions, but yet we all can feel um, for each other and relate because we understand what it's like. And like with the gut things, I think, I don't know if you do this, I'll send people like gut things that are probably not funny to the normal person who doesn't have Crohn's or IBS or something. But it like you just make the best of what you're doing because it's like, this is real. Like
Oh, for sure.
this is my life today.
This is my
And
norm.
yes, yeah. And I can either get mad about it or I can laugh about it. And I choose to laugh about it a lot. I mean, you have frustrating days, but we also don't want to spend our time. And I know you don't spend your time, you still do a lot.
I try to occupy my time. And as a result, I may do a lot, but not always.
Yeah.
Some days more than others.
During all of this fighting and all these conditions you're battling, what is the one thing that sparked you to keep going, keep fighting, and that brings you joy still?
Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram, I know so many people have negative associations with social media, but on Instagram, I have found connection and community. I did something that is kind of crazy. I just went on my stories one day and I started sharing. I'm very comfortable sharing on my stories. In my posts and my reels, not so much, but in the stories area where they disappear every 24 hours, that gave me the confidence to just share and be myself. And I can see the numbers. So I can see that about 50 to 100 people see it every day, which
Wow.
is not that much. It's not that much at all. But these people often reply to me, these wonderful people. So I get a lot of messages and we end up having conversations. So if I post that I'm having a shitty day, Ooh, can I say that?
Yeah, of course.
If I post that I'm having a bad day, a lot of people will respond and say, "Me too," or "I'm sorry you're having a bad day," or "Do you want to tell me more about it?" Like there's all sorts of personalities and perspectives that are just waiting to have a conversation with me. Or if I post something ridiculous, like that I'm a sports fan and my team is on and I can't believe this happened. There will be people who are interested in that. If I post about my frozen meals, someone is interested in that. Like anything you talk about, someone is going to respond. Someone's going to have a perspective. And it keeps life interesting. It keeps me from being lonely. And it has helped me develop some really nice friendships with people all over the world. And I love it.
Your face like lights up when you say that. It's so interesting. I love your stories. And I will tell you guys where you can find her because I want you guys to go watch her stories. I think it's super powerful that you're speaking your truth and that you're okay and you're comfortable saying, today's a shitty day. And you're acknowledging it and you're giving everybody else out there in the world who is going through something, and it doesn't even have to be the same thing you're going through, a space to open up and create connection. And I think that you have like, I mean, you said 50 to 100 people. That's a lot of people to impact a day. I mean, if you think about that, those numbers are pretty huge. Even people who work, think about your other job, you don't see if you're impacting 50 to 100 people a day. But now, you being you and sharing authentically, this is what I'm going through today, or these are the things that I'm trying, or today I got out in the world and this is what it felt like. Like, those things are so inspiring and so powerful. And it's huge. I hope you really just understand that because you're touching so many people a day just by being you.
Oh, thank you so much. And you know what's interesting is I do post when I get out in the world, which is not very often. I am mostly homebound and I've been feeling a little bit better. My meds have been adjusted recently and I'm feeling a little bit better, which helps me go out maybe one more day a week, which is huge for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I also have guilt about it because I have a lot of friends who are homebound. I have a good friend who is bedbound right now. And so sometimes when I post, I think about those people. So there's kind of this double-edged sword. Actually, I don't know if that's the right metaphor, but there's a lot that I consider when I post because I don't want to alienate anyone.
Hmm.
Um, but I do try to share a lot about what's going in my life and usually how it um, relates to my illness. Not just that I went to TJ Maxx, but that I went to TJ Maxx and I was in my wheelchair and my mom pushed me. And it was the only way I could have gone and I enjoyed it. Um, or that I went to a restaurant and I was able to walk using my cane. Like these,
Yeah.
it's a certain lens through which I present my experience.
It's so powerful. Um, did you have trouble getting out or after you had been, like, your life had changed using a wheelchair or going out in public knowing that you were going to have to use a cane or that you may not be able to last very long, just in general?
So there's the physical element, there's the emotional element. the physical element of it, I first got a cane and I couldn't use the cane very efficiently at first. Like, you have to learn how to use a cane. And the first cane I got was not maybe set up well for me. And I was learning how to use it. I didn't really like it. And I needed more support at the time. So I quickly moved to a rollator, which is a rolling walker. Picture those walkers that have wheels on them and they have a seat built in. So I really liked that because I needed to sit down a lot. But I realized I was sitting so often that I just needed to go to a wheelchair. And that's because my mom and I were going shopping. They would take me to the grocery store, my parents, and I couldn't stay on my feet. So I quickly went into a wheelchair. And there's, multiple types of wheelchairs, but I have a push wheelchair and I have power wheelchair. And the power wheelchair is great because I have autonomy, but the push wheelchair has an advantage in that I don't have to use as much cognitive force. I can save that energy and just be kind of pushed along and then use a little bit of my thinking to be like, yes, no, I would like this. And I save some energy versus if I'm pushing myself along, that uses so much energy. It's kind of like a 16-year-old in a car where they have to think about everything. I'm sure eventually it would all be second nature. But right now with the joystick and making sure I don't hit anyone, and it's like so much energy for me. So I kind of like being pushed better. But then there was like such an emotional element of like having someone push you is like I had to go through a period of time where I felt so inferior and I felt like I can't believe this is happening to me. And I didn't like when we'd be at a standstill and um, my parents would just talk or kind of move me like a cart, push me
Yeah.
out of the way so they could open or look at something. And I'm like, I'm still here. Don't forget about me. There's just so many emotional elements of it. Um, Gosh, I could just go on forever. I feel like I need better preparation and I could probably write you an essay on it. But now I feel like I've forgotten the question too.
No, I think it takes a lot when your life has changed and you answered that. Like you, obviously, if you're going out, you have to ask for help. And so that's a whole nother like, and then when people see you who haven't seen you and your life is different, I mean, there's so much to even going out. I wouldn't wear certain clothing. I didn't want people to see my scars. And so I just wondered if you dealt with those things also of like,
Oh, of
the
running
physical.
into people, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, I live in a really big city. So surprisingly, I have not run into people from work or my past very often. I think it's happened maybe twice.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was very uncomfortable for me because not only am I using a mobility aid, um, I gained probably 50 pounds when I got sick because I went on so many medicines, and many of them had affected my ability to control my appetite or like water. Like, I don't even know what the deal was, but I gained so much weight. And I have since lost about half of it because I'm working really hard to control what I eat. But as someone who is unfortunately sedentary because of my illnesses, like I can't go exercise. So I'm still very sensitive about it. When I see people, I know I look different. I know I hold a lot of inflammation in my face. So my face looks different. So I'm very insecure about it. And one of the ways I try to counter that is by just looking at myself a lot, putting myself on Instagram like, this is who I am. This is what I look like now. I don't look like I used to. Like if I post pictures of what I looked like a good 5+ years ago, people are always like, "Oh, you're so cute." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I used to I look different.
Yeah.
I'm a different person." And I would love if the inflammation went down at some point, but for now, it's, what I look like. And so when I run into people from the past, I'm really glad it's only happened like twice. Um, and I may be really dumb and they may not be thinking this at all, but that's what my experience is like in my head. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, they think I look different. And I care more about that than I do about the mobility aid because that's my insecurity. My insecurity is about what I look like most, less about the mobility aid.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's all these things when you get sick, and like you, I even when I wasn't eating, I was on so much steroids and they were putting so much in me. I wasn't eating or drinking, but yet I gained so much weight. And then, I mean, at first I lost a ton of weight. And then everybody would give you compliments, like, "Oh, you look so good." And then all of a sudden, they start giving you gain all this weight, and then it just is like that stops happening. But also when someone gives you a compliment and you're sick and you didn't mean to lose the weight, that is like a gut-wrenching, heart-pulling, please don't ever say that, and you just try to take it in. But then there's the people who like continue to do it. Like, okay, now you know I'm sick, so please stop telling me how beautiful I am or you can tell me I'm beautiful, but please stop telling me it's because I'm smaller now.
Yes.
I think that society puts such a big thing on how we should look, also like how we should feel. That's definitely powerful what you said, and I can relate to that. There's so much in that.
Well, I'm a child of the 90s and 2000s when it was all about being really skinny and, low cut jeans. And I've never quite recovered. So, of course, I'm going to be really conscious and concerned with how I look. I hope, Gen Z does a lot better.
Yeah, I hope that we can normalize that. Really, I think the one big thing is we stop judging each other
Yes.
and we start reaffirming each other that I am beautiful and I am who I am and I'm authentically me, and just teaching people that. And I think that's why you inspire me so much because you've been through all of this. And when you post, it inspires me because I still struggle to tell my story. I'm getting better at it, but the amount of people that you have impacted and you continue to impact daily just by showing up, and even if it's you laying in your bed, or I'm trying this, I'm doing this, or just a hey, I'm here. It is letting people know that you're a listening ear and you're a community and you're normalizing the things that should be normalized.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're just truly magic. And I am so blessed that our paths crossed and that you have a podcast talking about this. And you just keep doing what you're doing because you find the light in daily. Even when you're having a shitty day, you make, okay, so I'm having a shitty day and I'm still showing up to show you, like, I'm here. And I love it. I mean, I
Thank
hate that you're going through the pain, but I love that you're allowing others to say how they feel and what they're going through.
it's uh it's how I get by. It's a really reciprocal relationship, mutual relationship, you know?
It's funny because there's a lot of judgment about being on your phones and being on like computers or Instagram or any of those things. But in one way, several ways, I think that one the reasons that we're using them is to have deep connecting conversations with others, or even just a hello or about a sports team. That may open up a door that someone has not spoke to someone all day, and that's all they needed.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Sometimes I think I should be more branded and more consistent in what I put up. And then I'm like, nah, that's not me. I'm gonna have to post, about my podcast on one story, and then the next story is about Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball, like completely different vibe, because that's who I am. So I'm gonna, rather than having a cohesive brand, I'm gonna just post about what I have, and then you never know because someone will like send me a little fire emoji about basketball because they love basketball and they watch the game too. And that's great.
You have your own brand. Authentically Cathy. I mean, you have it.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for being here and just telling your journey. If there's one thing you could leave the listeners with today, to try something, to do something, to say something, just go spark them, something that sparked you, what would you leave them with?
I would say it's okay to let your inner spark show and that reaching out for connection is always worth it. And whether it's on Instagram or some other medium, do it. Community is so essential and it's always worth it. There's no downside.
Perfectly said. I think you guys should just left everybody with a challenge today
That's
and
right.
step out of your comfort zone and do something. I want to thank you for being here, and I encourage you, can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
Oh, yes, sure. So on Instagram, my name is Indoor Cathy, and my podcast is called That Chronic Thing. And that's me. I think it's just the two things.
They're two magical things.
Thank
Um,
you.
I will drop those in the show notes so you guys don't have to remember those. You don't have to scramble for paper right now. I'll just put them in the show notes for you. Easy click. Go check her out. I thank you so much for being here and being vulnerable and sharing your authentic self. You're truly magical. I hope you all have a great day and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Inner Spark. Go let your sparks fly. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I hope today's story inspired you to embrace your own journey of growth and change. Remember, transformation isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. If you found something that sparked you in this episode and may spark a friend, I encourage you to go share it with them. If you have your own story you would like to share, I would love to hear it, so please reach out to me. Until next time, friends, go have some fun and let those sparks fly.